chit chat video, 3 tips to find your soulmate. I know this is a must-have topic everybody's been requesting, so I'm diving into that today. As always, remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Also hit the notification bell so you know when videos drop. And also make sure you stay to the end for your positive affirmation. Let's go. So let's get into the 3 tips to manifesting your soulmate. And at the end of all this, I'm actually going to share my soulmate story because all these tips that I'm showing you, I use myself, and I feel like it really worked to attract my soulmate. I would never tell you anything that I didn't do myself. So these tips that I'm going to share with you today are definitely tips that I use, and I want to share them with you so you have the success that I have. So the first thing you have to do is you have to work on yourself. You have to work on yourself. Nothing will change unless you do that first. A lot of times as women, we carry on bitterness, hurt, and pain, which stems from past relationships that we had that didn't end up good. And a lot of times what we do is, if we don't work on ourselves, we'll carry that into the new relationship, and then we're on the same cycle of failed relationships year after year. And we do not want that to happen. You want to work on yourself. And ways you can work on yourself is preparing yourself for love, in a sense of writing down, maybe journaling things that you wanted to change, journaling things that you learned from the relationship. It doesn't always have to be a negative thing that happened from a relationship. It could end it up badly, but there were some positive things that happened during the relationship, and the negative things that happened, you can definitely learn from them moving forward into the new relationship. So making sure you work on yourself and prepare yourself for love. Number 2 thing you want to do is you want to, and this is one of my favorite steps, is you have to write down what you want in your spouse or in your soulmate. You have to write it down. I always talk about writing things down and the power of writing it down, and you want to definitely do that here. So some things you can write down could be, I want them to be honest. And I always love writing things specifically, so you can go on a little bit about what it means to be honest. What kind of specific things do you want them to do in terms of honesty? Also writing down other traits that you may want them to have. Every woman is different and wants something new. That is the benefit of going through relationships. You should not and never beat yourself up about failed relationships and feel yourself as a failure. That is not true. People break up with each other for multiple different reasons. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you not being good enough or worthy enough. It's simply just what happens. But the beautiful part, I love turning negatives into positive. The beautiful part is when you have relationships like that, it shows you what you're looking for. You're getting closer and closer and closer to that perfect person, to that soulmate. So again, don't beat yourself up about things that happened in the past. Move on from that so you can open yourself to love, and then you also use that to fuel yourself. So make sure you take a piece of paper and write down the 5 traits. I say 5 because I've even seen women do 5 pages of traits that they want in a man. At the end of the day, you're not going to find a perfect person. I look at people as combinations, right? There may be some things that they need to work on, but they're great in these areas. You have to find that perfect combination that's going to unlock for you. And you write that combination down on a piece of paper. And I'm going to tell you a little secret. A secret that I used, and that was, once you finish writing that down, those traits that you really truly want, fold that piece of paper up and put it in your panty drawer. That is definitely a secret that I don't know if everybody knows. But Make sure you do that. There's something about putting it there that helps it manifest. And hey, I always say it can't hurt. I did it and I used it. And I have a soulmate. So make sure you do that. Write down your traits and put it in your panty drawer. Next, you want to do, once you've done all those steps, you want to visualize. And that is a key word throughout all this. You want to visualize yourself with that man of your dreams, with all those traits. For example, you close your eyes and you visualize, how would me and this person interact? Visualize yourself at dinner and how he's talking to you. Visualize yourself walking with him and you guys are talking about whatever. Visualize him, if you have kids, with your kids. Visualize him with other members of your family. Visualize him in all aspects, in all areas, and visualize that perfect scenario of what you want. Visualization is important because we don't have those images of, those scenarios in our head. Most of the time, it could be negative images of men that we have. And we want to get those out of there. For example, we keep doing this self-talk about ourselves, about other men, as men are dogs and there's not enough good men around. And that's simply not true. Men are not dogs. There are lots of men to go around who are great, who are willing to make great husbands and soulmates. So make sure you keep that in mind and visualize yourself in those perfect moments with your man. Also, I want to bring up to make sure you remove feelings of desperation. In my quest for my soulmate, it was definitely rock bottom for me. It got to the point where I definitely just was ready. I was ready. I had just been hanging out with friends, not really serious, and then it just hit me. I was ready for that soulmate and ready for a relationship. So I did all those steps. And also, what I made sure to do was what I just mentioned, not say negative things about men. Because I knew if I said negative things about men and I fed into the stereotypes that other women who had been hurt said, I knew it wasn't going to come to me. I was doomed from the start if I did that. You're doomed from the start if you say those negative things. How can you say on one breath, I really want a soulmate, and then on the other breath you say, but there's no good men around. Men are dogs. Men are just cheaters. It can't live together. There is an abundance of men around, and there is good men around. I'm here to tell you, it's just about finding them. Like they always say, you have to kiss a couple of frogs before you get your prince. And that may be true. There's some women who may get a prince from the first guy. And there's some where it may take a little bit more because you're discovering what you want. And also, you're discovering more about yourself and you're taking time for self-love. That may require a little more attention than other women may need. Everybody is different, and that's the beauty about everything. And you want to make sure that you're not desperate. You don't want desperate energy floating around in the universe, conflicting to what you really want. Because like I said, all that energy, what it's going to do is it's just going to overshadow all the positive things you're doing. So you want to always make sure your positive energy and flow and frequency is way higher than a negative. And there's nothing good that comes out of desperation. Nothing at all. I remember I used to find places, okay, well, there's a lot of men at the gym, I'm going to go to the gym. Oh, there's a lot of men at this club, I'm going to go there. And then nothing would ever happen. And then at the end of the day, I would be discouraged and I would feel down and I would start all this negative self-talk about myself because I did all these attempts and nothing happened. Which leads me into my story about finding a soulmate. I completely let go of the desperation and I said, you know what? I'm just going to go with the flow. I already wrote down what I want, and that's a funny story in itself. So when I moved to LA, my first apartment, there was a girl upstairs and we became friends, and she told me, write down all the traits you want in a man, fold it up and put it in your panty drawer. And I was like, okay, it was different for me, but I was like, at that point, I was like, you know what? I'll try anything. There's no harm in this. So I wrote it down, folded it up, and then I put it in my panty drawer. And I would say maybe 3 months later, I was at a business conference. One of my mentors, I was doing handbags at the time, and one of my mentors, she was a handbag designer. She was throwing a conference, and she said, "Why don't you set up a table there?" And I was like, "Okay, cool, perfect." So I went there. I set up a table, and I'm just, talking to people, trying to sell my bags, and then a guy walks up, and then he's like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Hey, how are you doing?" So we start talking, i.e., soulmate, and the rest is history. I mean, we exchanged numbers at that event and started talking, and our first date was New Year's Day. New Year's Eve, I would say. I got off work, literally, I had to work that night at maybe like 11 o'clock and drove out, and we had an amazing New Year's Eve, just the two of us, and that was kind of like the spark for a lifetime. But that is my soulmate story. And also in that story, you can see that, number one, I wasn't desperate. Number two, I let it go. I just said, you know what, this is what I want, and I let it go, and I let it happen. Also, you never know where this person will pop up. You have no idea, right? You have no idea. I was at a business conference. I had to work after that, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do this and then go to work. Wasn't even thinking about meeting nobody there at all. Wasn't thinking about meeting nobody, and then boom, it just popped up, and I met my soulmate, and the rest is history, and I want the same for you. So please keep these tips in mind. They're so easy to do, and they're so easy to follow, and they can make tremendous strides in order for you to find your soulmate. So the affirmation today is, my heart is open, and I am now attracting my soulmate. My heart is open, and I am now attracting my soulmate. Make sure you say this every day, morning and night. And don't forget, if you are not a subscriber, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you next time. But before then, you got this, girl.